In this episode of Viral Rewind, we're looking at another email worm for Windows. This is Pleh. It's basically help spelled backwards, and it comes as a Visual Basic script file, is an email attachment. And usually, being an email worm, you'll get some kind of email, whether it's an Outlook or whatever mail client you would be using back in the day, with some kind of text, and then it would have help.vbs as it actually would be attached in the message and not Pleh, but that's what the virus researchers of Kaspersky and others decided to call it, so they decided to call it Pleh. So let's look at the actual VBS file to see what it's going to do to the system. So it actually calls it the links random worm from the author, and then it's got a little comment saying, "I hate you," and a couple of functions. But anyway, here is the mass mailing routine in the submail section. It'll go into Outlook, so if you got Microsoft Outlook installed, it'll make use of it. And it looks like from this counter here, 1 to 80, it's going to mass mail itself 80 times to whatever contacts it can pull out from your address book. As you can see from here, it's looking in the address list. So if you've got an address book in Outlook, it's going to try to send it to 80 of those recipients. And it will put "I hate you" in the subject line, and in the body it's going to type, "I think that you must see this file. I insist." And then it will attach help.vbs from the dropped directory when we run it. And then tells it to send it, and then goes on to the next routine. And now it starts getting folders off of the system for its infection. So it's looking through the system file folders, and then it's going to put those into the infection files list, which then goes into another thing where we're going to look at the object creations for getting into these drives. So it's going to go through the various drives, because it's not just going to change drive C. If you've got multiple partitions or multiple hard drives, it will also look into those drives and infect whatever on those as well. And then we get into its infection routine. So we of course get into the file operations, and then it starts looking for particular file extensions. In this case, it's looking for MP3s, PWDs, which are password documents, executable files, MP2, audio files, along with doc, so Microsoft Doc Word documents, Microsoft AVI, audio video interlace files, mpeg video files, and HTML web files. So if it finds files with those extensions, it's then going to write the contents of the virus, which is pleh.vbs, so it's going to write all this into those files that have those extensions that it finds. And then it's going to go into the folder, so it's going to go into the Windows folder, and then it's going to create a directory called look here, and then it's going to create youMustRead.txt, and it's going to write to the file that says, "Hello, it is so pity that I can't look at your face. Now, and do you know why? Because your machine was infected by links random worm. Regards from Odd." And then it does a couple of more operations where it puts in a registry key so that it always launches help.vbs, so it always launches the virus over and over. If your system is able to start in the first place, we'll see later that that's particularly not going to be the case. But if it could, it would relaunch help.vbs, and it would mass mail itself every time you started the computer up. And then lastly, it tries to make some modifications to the autoexec.bat file. As you see here, it does a clear screen command and then leaves a comment that says, "Please wait, it can take only few minutes," which is nicely misspelled. And it tells it to format drive C. Now, of course, this would not work, because if you use format C in DOS, it will actually ask you with a warning prompt whether you want to format the disk, yes or no. So this actually would not work. And then that's pretty much it. And then it gives us the message box telling us to read that you must read this text file that it drops in that look here directory. So that's pretty much how the Pleh Visual Basic Script email worm is going to work. So let's go ahead and launch it. But before I do that, I want to open up the Windows directory so we can see the consequences of what happens when somebody gets this and runs it. So all our applications in the Windows directory and files all look pretty good there. Let's go ahead and run Pleh. There's our little message box. Read, you must read .txt file with a smiley face. Now Outlook on here is not properly configured to send and receive mail, so we're not going to see that mailing routine show up on here. Otherwise we would see a message show up. But there's hard drive activity going on. You can hear the laptop fan just came on to keep the processor cool because there's activity going on. Like there's a readme HTML file. And if you look at the readme HTML file, it's already been modified before we've even seen the change to it. I see rundil32, scan disk, scan reg. See, a lot of these icons have just changed. Direct cable connection, the phone dialer, defrag. See, they've all lost their icons because they've all been overwritten. 4 kilobytes, 4 kilobytes, 4 kilobytes, 4 kilobytes, 4 kilobytes. So they've all been overwritten with this, which is roughly 4 kilobytes. So again, Pleh is actively going through whatever drives it can and is overriding all executables, HTMs, MP3s, MP2s, AVIs, HTMs, whatever we saw in that file. And so now these will be overwritten. And if we try to run them, they just don't work. So anyway, as we said, it did drop a folder into the Windows directory. We may have to wait till it finishes its file operations till we get that dropped file. See if we can find this folder here. Now here we are. So here's our look here folder that it made, and the text file. Now obviously we can't, oh, I guess we can open this still. So Notepad has not been overwritten just yet. But there's our line that said, "Hello, it is so pity that I can't look at your face now, and do you know why? Because your machine was infected by links, random worm, regards from Odd." So that's its dropped file. It looks like it's done going through the system. Something. Okay, so it actually did not manage to overwrite Notepad. I wonder why that is. Oh, that's because Notepad is open. I still had Pleh.vbs open in Notepad. Okay. So Notepad actually would not have worked had I not had it open because it was currently in use. So the computer is pretty much ruined now. You wouldn't be able to run any of your applications or anything after that. And let's see. Let's see if we can actually restart. Of course, you can imagine when we try to boot the computer, it probably will not boot. This. And this is essentially as far as we're going to get. Even though the executable files are still present there, as we saw, they've all become corrupted and don't work properly. So basically, when you try to boot Windows, you end up getting hung up here at the loading screen, where you're just going to have to reinstall Windows at this point, along with any other programs that have also gotten infected by Pleh. So that is pretty much it for the Pleh Visual Basic Script email worm.